Hello, welcome to everyone. The world economy is in the path of recession. 37 days have passed after the lockdown from 21st of March 2020. Almost 37 days have passed, and we hope till 3rd of May the present condition will continue. Enterprises are worried about their survival. Small industries, big industries, multinationals, MSMEs, all are under stress because survival of the industry in the future is going to be a difficult task. When I say difficult task, difficulty with regard to the fulfillment of the contracts, their loan repayments, their survival in the industry with the competitors, their export difficulties, etc. has created a lot of stress and strain, and the survival has become a very difficult issue. On the top of all these things, we have the issue of salary payment to the employees, that too with the direction or the advice of the Government of India, followed by state government and central government directives to the small as well as medium as well as multinational companies. When the industry is finding it difficult to survive, a situation has come. The central government has come out with an advisory to pay payment to all the employees, whether they are casual, temporary, Badly, contract, daily rated, etc. We have not heard about such a situation, a pandemic situation where the work has come to the standstill, which was beyond the control of the employer. The employer is willing to offer employment. The employees are ready to come and work. But because of a natural calamity, the government has declared a complete lockout, and a peculiar situation has come where the employer is not in a position to generate income, and the employees are not in a position to discharge their functions for claiming the salary. When I talk about wages or salary, there should be an employment. There should be an employer-employee relationship. The first directive of the central government on 29/3/2020 is the base directive. You look at the situation on 25th, the lockdown is declared, and soon after 5 days, the salary directive is coming from the central government home ministry to almost all state governments, and the state government is coming out with the state directive from the Labour Commission of the state and respective states as well as the central government. Look at the situation of the airlines which have been affected. The Central Labour Commission has directed issued notices, and conciliation proceedings are in progress, and the central government is directing the employer, namely big airlines, to pay wages, whereas the airlines find it difficult to pay wages, and they are cutting 30% salary because the entire aircraft is grounded throughout India, not only throughout India, throughout the world. That is a time when the government is directing all employees, whether it is small or big, to pay wages. When we talk about the wages, the first directive on 29/3 specifically is related to the first paragraph is relating to the migrant workers. And when I talk about the migrant workers, the presumption is the entire circular is relating to the migrant workers alone. For the time being, I am not touching upon the migrant workers alone. the salary entitlement applies not only to the migrant workers, it applies to all the employees, whether it is small or big establishment, it applies. So the question arises, the question we are going to discuss is the justifiability of the justifiability or the legality of the orders passed by the central government as well as the state government, etc. There is no delay on the part of the employees to come and report for work. Whereas the employer is also not denying work to the employees. The government of India is denying the establishment to operate, and it is a bounden duty of the government to see to it that the enterprises are supported with monetary or financial cash supports, etc. But nothing much has been done. We have been hearing about the monetary support the government is planning or the government is intending to give, but so far much has been done. The entitlement of salary arises when there is a contractual employment with the employer and employee. When there is an employment only, the salary entitlement arises. When you work under an employer, the liability to pay salary arises on the side of the employer. You look at the Industrial Disputes Act, the definition of employee says, employee is a person who is employed for wages. And for claiming wages, he should be engaged or he should be employed for wages, for getting the wages. Same way, the employer is also entitled or a bounden duty for the employer to pay wages the employee fulfills the contract. Basically the contract or the appointment letter, we call it as contract of employment. There is an employer, there is an employee, and there is a contract of employment, and when it joined together, the employer, employee, the contract of employment, we call it as appointment letter, it is a contract. So the contract on the part of the employer has to be fulfilled for claiming the salary. Here is a case where the central government circulars on the first circular on 29/3/2020 has been challenged right now before the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court has asked for the affidavit from the central government Solicitor General asking for more clarification on what are the grounds based on which the circular has been issued. When I talk about the circular itself says that it is based on section 10(2) subsection L of the Disaster Management Act. The Disaster Management Act of 2005 doesn't envisage the salary payment on the part of the employer. This is a special act which is envisaged for the purpose of providing support, namely when the disaster occurs, the employees, the workers should be provided with adequate shelter, sufficient food, etc., etc. But the peculiarity of the act is it supersedes all other acts. Section 72 of the act is an overriding power of the act among all other acts. So there is a non-obstinate clause. It overrides all the other acts. Followed by that, the Disaster Management Act section 71 stipulates that it bars all other courts other than High Court and Supreme Court. That means the High Court and Supreme Court can only entertain when a dispute arises with regard to the prosecution or any proceedings under the Act. Only the High Court and the Supreme Court can only entertain as provided under section 71 of the Disaster Management Act of 2005. So if you have a closer look at the notifications, various notifications from the Central State Labor Commissioner, Central Labor Commissioner. No statute supports that. Followed by that, there is another act which also supports the notifications or the circulars. The Epidemic Act of 1897 is the another act which is quoted in this circular. That circular also doesn't envisage the government, either the state or the central government, to come out with a circular with a directive for the employees of the respective state and central to pay salary to the employees. So the two acts, namely the Epidemic Act of 1897 as well as the Disaster Management Act of 2007, are the two legislation which, according to the circular, empowers the Home Ministry to give a directive to all of the state governments and central government to issue immediate circulars to the employers so as to enable the employer to not to terminate, discontinue, casual, temporary, contract, bedly, etc. The very fact the contract employment itself denotes that the employer, there is no employer-employee relationship directly between the principal employer and the contract employees. And for the purpose of wages, the immediate employer contractor is liable to pay wages unless the contractor fails to pay wages, the principal employer is held liable. In the case of a contract employee, that is so. But when it comes to a casual employee, the nature of the employment is casual in nature. Every day the relationship disappears and the next day the relationship continues if there is employment. So I find there is no justification for the directive to support the contention that the employer should pay wages to casual employee as well as contract employee as well as regular employees on the rolls. If you look at the circulars, the circular is against the Article 14 of the Indian Constitution. Article 14 of the Constitution is equality before law and equal protection of law. Here, the directive starting from 29/3/2020 doesn't classify employees in various categories. You look at the small industries, the medium industries, bigger establishments and multinational industries. Here all the establishments are treated alike and the direction is given to pay wages to all the category of employees. And that count also the Constitution, Article 14, there is a clear violation of equality before law and equal protection of law. There is a clear discrimination of bigger and smaller establishment, and the circular on that ground also deserves to be quashed. The third reason which I want to enlighten is Article 19 of the Constitution also stipulates that every enterprises, there is a freedom of profession or occupation, trade or business to carry out any business or any profession. I have a very absolute right under Article 19, 5 of the Constitution, but unfortunately, but with certain restrictions which are reasonable. But to carry out my business, the directive of the central and the state government, it's definitely, it is not a reasonable restriction. The reasonable restriction is on the part of the a directive issued against an employer to pay wages to an employee who has not reported for work, who is not in a position to pay, who is not in a position to take wages, who is legally not entitled because there is no employment as such. The right of salary arises when the work is carried out as provided both under the Industrial Disputes Act of 1947 as well as under the Payment of Wages Act. Now, on these three grounds, I have no hesitation to say that this directive or the circulars are really fallacious and these circulars are unsustainable before the eyes of law. And let us hope that the Supreme Court will decide these issues when these legal questions, fundamental rights violation, Article 14 and Article 19, and the circular which arises under the Disaster Management Act and the Epidemic Act is questioned. Let us look at the remedies available under the Act. Because when an employee is not paid salary as against the directive of the Government of India and state, what is the remedy available before the employee? An employee can only approach the, I'm talking about a private sector enterprises. It can also apply to a public sector undertaking. An employee can approach the Labour Court under Section 33C2 claiming wages under Section 33C2 of the AD Act. But there is a limitation. Only a workman defined under the Industrial Disputes Act can only raise a claim under the Industrial Disputes Act. The other part of the definition, the non-workman, namely supervisors and managers, they are also employees. There is no guidelines whatsoever with regard to the entitlement of wages. If at all they are entitled, what is the remedy available to those non-workmen under the ID Act? The remedy clearly lies before the civil court. But in a civil court, a non-workman cannot claim wages. He can only claim compensation for the inability to perform his duty or the the compensation for that lockdown period. But under the Specific Relief Act, Section 14 specifically stipulates that a contract of employment cannot be enforced under a civil, under a labor statutes. A contract of employment, personal contract of employment can only enforced through a labor court under the Constitution of the Industrial Disputes Act. So all the non-workmen, other than the workmen defined in the Industrial Disputes Act, have to take recourse under the civil court where the scope under the Specific Relief Act is only limited. The non-workman can only claim a compensation which is only very meager in nature, and to prove compensation for the lockdown period will also be a difficult task. On the side of the employer, the circular or the directive specifically stipulates that it should be treated as a closure and you will have to pay compensation to the employees, those who have been locked out. As a matter of fact, there is no closure as such. Closure is a permanent shutting down of the establishment under the Industrial Dispute Act. Here it is not a closure as stipulated in the circular. Here is only a temporary stoppage. And when you close down an establishment, you can only pay closure compensation. That means you will have to pay closure compensation at the rate of 15 days for every completed year of continuous service, what he called as though he has been retrenched. Here also, a bigger establishments only need to take approval from the government. An establishment having less than 100 employees need not get the approval from the government, and there the employees can be paid compensation without getting approval from the government. Now, coming to the relief part of the employees, in the event the employer is not paying, or employer is taking contention that I am not in a position to release the salary because I am not earning, if that be the position, what is the remedy available to the employee? Employee can, second option, can approach the notified labor court under the Payment of Wages Act of 1936. There also there is a cap. Only an employee defined under the Payment of Wages Act, a person drawing salary up to 24,000, then amendment of Payment of Wages Act with effect from August 2017, the ceiling of employee has been hiked from 18,000 to 24,000. So an employee drawing salary up to 24,000 can only claim wages under the Payment of Wages Act. An authority constitute under the Payment of Wages Act. Right now in Kerala it is the Labor Code. So there also there is a cap. There is no universal classification. You have categorized certain workmen to claim salary. There is a provision, even though it is not legally sustainable. On the other side, the non-workmen, there is no relief. So you are categorizing workmen and non-workmen. The relief is nothing but impossible, and you are generating or creating two sets of employees, namely workmen and non-workmen. The third point which I want to emphasize is the lockout, the layoff declared by the employer. The circular also stipulates that the layoff can be declared and a layoff compensation can be extended. Unfortunately, layoff can be declared only in a factory or a plantation or a mine. So the declaration of a layoff is only limited. Maybe 10% of the total industries throughout India. So the very purpose of the directive or the advisory nature of the circular is defeated, because if at all it is correct, the circular only touches upon only to the factory defined under the Factories Act, a plantation under the Plantation Labor Act, and a mine under the Mines Act. Whereas the major portion of the industries, the service industry, all other industries other than factories, plantations and mines will not come under the Act. So there is no relief extended to the layoff proposed by the notification. The fourth issue which I want to take up is the compensation entitled or payable to the employees, to the casual employees, also arises when an employee is engaged continuously or 240 days in the preceding 12 months, then only it is attracted as a continuous service defined under the Industrial Dispute Act, and in that case only that employees who have completed 240 days will only be entitled for a compensation under the Retrenchment Compensation Act. So a casual employee employed for a single day and the relationship discontinues after one day, the question of paying compensation or discontinuation of the employee after 1 day or 1 week or 1 month doesn't arise. So on that ground also, You are categorizing an employee, a casual employee with a contract employee, with a permanent employee, and a small establishment, a medium-sized establishment, a multinational establishment. You are differentiating. On the one side, there is no reasonable classification while you carry out the business. So it's a violation under Article 14 of the Constitution, as well as Article 19 of the Constitution is also violated, which is a question to be decided by the Supreme Court, which the matter is pending. Now, if you look at the government support extended during the lockdown period, see, in a developing economy, the industrial establishments or enterprises are keenly looking at the support, the financial support of the government. What are the support extended by the government, both central and state? Let's have a look at that. The statutory machineries we have under the Social Security scheme, under the Provident Fund and ESI, the most costliest social security in the world, I can say. The benefits extended to the Provident Fund is really, it says only a relief for an establishment employing less than 100 employees, and a rider with a condition that if your employees, 90% of the employees are drawing less than 15,000 rupees per month, then 3 months employees and employers contribution, the EPF organization will be supported by the government, as though it's a very financial support to the establishment. It applies to only a small group of establishment, and the EPF organization and the government of India has been so stingy to extend a monetary support to the social security extended to the government of India throughout India. Another support extended is by the EPF is a loan facility extended at the rate, if I am correct, 75% of the 3-month salary, or 75% of the balance, or the 3-month salary of the employee, whichever is lesser, the EPF organization is extending. So as a result, a number of employees are taking advance from the EPF organization. On the side of the ESI Corporation, another statutory social security in the event of health, accidents, sickness, etc. There is nothing except an extension of your payment of ESI contribution. Now on every 15th you have to pay your ESI contribution, and ESI has come out with a circular initially for a 30 days extension that has further been extended to a 75 days extension for your ESI payment. The statutory liability of the succeeding month of contribution has been extended to another 75 days, as though it is a huge financial support to the establishments. So the two social security legislation support the government is extending a small pittance to the employers, and on the other side, the government of India is coming out with a directive which has no legal backing or legal support, and threatening the employer to pay wages for the period when there is no employment. When there is no employment, I can understand when employees are employed, only the liability of the employer to pay wages arises. All the establishments, if you look at the attendance register, it will be recorded as lockout, as no work. And I have no hesitation to say, if at all the employee challenges it before the appropriate labor courts claiming wages, the employer finds it very difficult to come out to the attendance register and show that the employee has not been employed. And when there is no employment, the liability to pay wages also doesn't arise, even though the contract of employment subsists. So the directive, I have no hesitation to say, to implement the directive is nothing but difficult, but employers on the whole throughout India is worried about how to pay wages to the employees when there is no work. As a matter of fact, for the month of March, when the lockdown was declared on 25th, almost all industries have paid salary for the month of March. But April is coming to be a slightly tougher, and employers are a bit hesitant, and employers have started thinking to release salary 10%, 20%, 50% on a need basis. And of course, if the lockdown continues, the situation for the month of May, June, July, etc. will be really tough. I don't think no employer will be able to financially support the employees, nor the directive by the Government of India and the state government will only remain as a paper order alone. When I talk about the entitlement of wages to the employees, Supreme Court has repeatedly held that the public sector undertaking should be a model employer. If you look at the public sector undertaking in Trivandrum, a society owned by the district collector, Hospital Development Society, supporting the Trivandrum Medical College, employing around 400-500 employees. The salary for even March has not been released. Only a part of the amount has been released. So on the one side, the directive issued by the government is not complied with. As a matter of fact, the government should be a model employer, and they should show a model to others. Yes, we are releasing salary to the employees, and naturally the private sector also will be tempted to release the salary. So unfortunately, on the other side, the government-owned industries, the government-owned societies are reluctant to release salary, and their casual, their contract, their temporary employees are put to peril. So a situation has come. It is a question of life or livelihood of the employees. We are talking about the life. We are sitting at our home. But how long? If you continue sitting at our home for a long period, our livelihood will be a difficult task, and the risk is also equally dangerous. On the side of the employer, there is high bankruptcy, there is huge job loss, there is liquidity crisis on the side of the employer, there is breakdown in the credit line of the industrialist. So these are the big issues faced by the employer during the lockout. So I hope all the industrial establishments, both small, medium, multinationals, etc., which we could hear, are facing difficulties. You look at the Bogaigaon refinery, the salary has not been released. You look at the Indian Oil Corporation. You look at the public sector undertakings, the biggest public sector undertaking in India, where contract employees' wages are not released. The airlines, SpiceJet employees' release have been cut. Of course, it is a private sector undertaking. But Indian Oil, Bogaga Refinery, Hindustan Zinc, where the contract employees as well as the regular employees' salary is at stake. So I am again emphasizing a public sector undertaking, a public sector company should show a model to the private sector employees, so that we will also fall in line and we will also be tempted to release salary. And the government should give directives first to the public sector undertakings, the public sector companies, so that they comply with that. The process of prosecution, other machineries that can be initiated under various statutes, if at all possible, should be initiated against those establishments, so that let us also look at that. Let us also be happy to follow the path of the public sector undertaking. Having not done that and insisting and giving repeated, the private sector employees are repeatedly getting circulars from the Labour Commissioner, both central and state, as though we are going to be hanged for not paying the salary for the period when there is no employment. So ultimately, before concluding, I have a very important question to be discussed. There was a discussion going on in the webinar throughout in India with regard to the contracting out of wages. There is a proposition that if the employer and the employee or the union can enter into a contract and come out on the liability to pay the wages, Section 25 of the Minimum Wages Act stipulates that contracting out is illegal. If you enter into a contract with the union or the employees against the provision under the Minimum Wages Act, Section 25, it mandates that any contract or agreement in violation of Section 25 is illegal, and such a contracting out is not sustainable. The second question with regard to the contracting out under the Payment of Wages Act, Section 23 of the Payment of Wages Act stipulates that any contracting out with the employer and employee or with the union against the money salary which you are getting, such a contract is in violation of the statute and it will not hold good. And the proposition made by the legal luminaries on contracting out and not paying wages to the so-called employees who have not worked also will not hold good, because the Section 25 and Section 23 of the Minimum Wages Act and the Payment of Wages Act prohibits to contract out and not to pay wages. So with these words, I think I could convey a few examples and tips on the entitlement of wages during the lockdown period. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you.